That space, that's us. The space between us. But fewer and fewer know how to deal with it. Historically, we have been never more globally connected. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
How did I say that right?
Mm-hmm. We've never been more globally
Really connected than today. However, we have been more socially disconnected than we are today. I feel this way with Chris at times, even after 45 years. Even as recently as yesterday, in a most perfect setting, I had a wonderful glass of wine sitting in the library at the Nomad. It could not be more perfect. But I thought we were disconnected because we were talking about this talk and we were disagreeing. Do you know what the first recorded question God asked man? None of you know? Where are you?
That was good, honey. Now you can go sit down.
I
wish. we didn't quite resolve over that glass of wine how to go from here. And to be entirely truthful, yesterday afternoon, Alice spent 4 hours completely redoing what we were going to say. And then when I saw that, I completely came undone. So this really is...
We didn't like each other right then.
No. We were present, but we weren't there. We're going to work through this. And we have everything written out, which is not our happy way to do things, but we're going to kind of work with that. We do want to tell our story. We do want to express who we are and what we feel and what we believe and how much we love each other and our boys. So if that... You can leave now, and we can just do the rest of the speech. So, life together is what we're calling this, the space between us. Life together is harder than you'd think. Alice and I borrowed that little talk, that little title, from Dietrich Bonhoeffer's book called Life Together. Mm-hmm. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was put in prison by Hitler and just a couple days before the war ended, was executed. He also wrote a book while he was in prison about how costly are things which are valuable. So life together is not easy, it's hard, it's costly, but it is so valuable. Thank you for that pointing in the direction where I am. What we want to share with you as we look back into our 45-year rearview mirror will get you to think about, we hope we will get you to think about your own story and encourage you to choose to move towards life-giving relationships. That's what we're keen on, that make life worth living. Those are what we think we have been created for, to give life to others through relationships. Not just giving new life to children through our 2 times of apparently making love.
That's
but other things as well.
That's a good activity.
Yes.
One we enjoy together.
We're going to move right into the bedroom now. The story of our life together, I'm going to give you a timeline. The story of our life together began in 1971. I was from the North.
I was from the South.
In the Navy. By the way, it doesn't say on here that she said I'm from the South. So I am measured and careful and dogmatic and linear.
He was a Yankee.
She is not. Well-educated, well-traveled, flight instructor who thought he knew a lot about life. Alice was a true Southern country girl, a ponytailed Pollyanna, who had never read a book completely, or as she used to call it, from front to cover. Not one. She'd graduated from 2 years of junior college and she had not read one book. Still, we met and fell in love and decided to get married. What I want to tell you is that just days before our wedding, my dear mother sent me a letter detailing all the reasons why Alice and I should not get married and why there was no way that we could live happily ever after. By the way, if you read the New York Times Sunday a week ago, there's a wonderful article in there, maybe not so wonderful, by Alain de Botton, entitled, Why You Will Marry the Wrong Person. Apparently, he's channeling my mother.
In the Torah, when God called to man in the garden, "Where are you?" He just wasn't asking a great question for the text, but for all of life. The God of the cosmos wasn't asking the question because he didn't know the answer. No, he asked that penetrating question because he wanted Adam, like us, to think about where we are. A few weeks ago, Chris and I were just beginning a very important meeting. It was an NCF board meeting at 8:30 on a Wednesday morning. At 8:45, Chris got the call that our condominium was being on fire, and there were 9 fire trucks putting water up to our condominium and the fire next door, which was the apartment next door in the condominium. 9 fire trucks. Our condo was 1 floor down and 1 unit over from the flames. Chris took the call. He informed us. He let us ask a few questions around the table. We all prayed, and then we proceeded on with the meeting. Chris was totally engaged with the agenda, totally present. I, on the other hand, was not. I was physically there, but I kept jumping ahead, wanting to change where I was and what was happening. I was seeing and hearing and feeling and thinking all kinds of things that related to my home. And Chris was completely clueless. 5 days later, one of my very best friends died at noon on Monday. Her name was Sid. It was too soon for her to die. I was not ready to say goodbye. However, her death, in the words of C.S. Lewis, was a severe mercy. A mercy in that she was struggling mightily towards the end of her journey with cancer. Severe, that it came so suddenly and unexpectedly. The hospice nurse had just stated that it would be at least another week. Within an hour of that announcement, she was gone. 2 hours later, Sid was being carried down from her bedroom and out the door for a waiting ambulance. Right then, the florist van pulled up to deliver her a single rose. You see, the card was signed from a secret admirer. For most of their married lives, which were almost 50, Skip, her husband, had sent her a single rose to her every Monday, though Skip never admitted it was him. She would smile, thank the deliverer, and place a single rose in front of the kitchen window where she stood every day. The rose represented the here and now of Skip's commitment of love towards her, having never placed the rose in her hand himself, admitting indeed that he was her secret lover. He placed the last rose he would ever give her in her hands, laying across her heart as she was carried out. He could not be more fully present to her in admitting his love and his admiration for her. I was not physically present there, but I was fully present in realizing that moment.
Is that clock up there for us?
Yes, honey, the one on the right.
It must be going too fast. Mm-hmm. It says that we're halfway through.
Okay.
Now, where were we? I left you a bit ago in 1971. Now let's fast forward 20 years to where we are in 1991. It's our 20th anniversary, and we're on a plane to Greece for the trip of our lifetime.
Yeah.
I'm going to not look at this. This
All
is
right.
such a good story. We're on the plane, we're reading a book, and we get an idea from the book. And the idea is, as we get off the plane, let's pretend that we don't know each other.
Right.
So I've got my little bag, she's got her little bag. We go off in different directions. I go to the bathroom. I stumble around looking for baggage claim. I usually ask her where it is, but I can't because I don't know her. And so we get there, and I'm bending over and being polite. I see this pretty blonde, and I offer to help her with her bag.
I could immediately tell he was trying to woo me.
Not only am I not wearing my glasses, but my eyes are teary, so I can't
Okay.
see a thing there.
Yeah.
Okay. That day, we met and fell in love all over again. The next morning, in the blossom of new love, Alice and I rented a rowboat, went out into the Aegean, took off all our clothes, and dived into the water.
Naked.
As they say in Pensacola.
Well, I don't know if they got that.
I think they got it now. After a little bit of frolicking, let your mind wander, we noticed a small sightseeing boat approaching us directly. We made the it's fun to hear Randy and Rudy laugh. We made the inadvisable decision to try and climb back into the boat. Suffice it to say, as the tourists passed by, clicking pictures on real cameras as we were half in and half out of the water, they must have seen some very pretty sights and felt that they really got their money's worth.
Sometimes you don't want to be so present to so many others. And God called to man, "Where are you?" Do you know Socrates, who lived 400 BC, he did the same thing God did in teaching us? He would ask the question that forced his students to analyze the situation and discover the answers for themselves.
Alice and I think this question, where are you, is much more relevant and challenging for us to answer today than probably it was for Adam and Eve. They didn't have smartphones, smarter than we are, nor the concept of multitasking, dozens of relationships, self-help books, TED Talks, business partners, or, as we need, marriage counselors. So whatever kind of relationships you're in, that was a list, from business to marriage, the truth about relationships is still true. It runs the same course. Real presence is the ideal of all true individuation. It's the meat of it. So we started asking that question of each other 45 years ago as a married couple. Where are we in life? Where are we with each other? Are we still bringing to each other the most important thing, a present heart? Facing the complexities of commitment is no small feat. Not for sissies, as they say these days. Marriage is glorious. I'm talking about our marriage, but also your marriage and the marriage of Will and Daniel as business partners, or Brian and Mark as brothers and business partners. It's glorious, but it's very difficult.
It is confusing. At the restaurant, I, Alice, was a professional oak tree when we were working together. But at home, I wanted to be a delicate, beautiful flower. And Chris would get confused at what I was at what place.
Very difficult for me. Can we move ahead to the point where...
Well, I think you should really say this.
Okay. As the boys said, so aptly informing all my secrets on everybody, I didn't ever really want to be in the restaurant business. I'm not a natural restaurateur, and I was always asking myself, why am I here? But God had generously given me this restaurant. It came from my father, but as some of you know, he wasn't really my father. I had been adopted out of an orphanage. I was not Canlis of Canlis. So I've always thought of this whole restaurant as a gift from God. No question in my mind.
He was. He was originally adopted. He has 4 fathers.
We won't go into that. So, and now I'm completely lost. So, once we discovered where we were, we then asked the more poignant question. Where do we want to be? That included geography as well as relationship. And then we listened and learned.
For us, listening was the hard part in being present. As much as Chris adores me, he tends to interrupt me. Chris wants me to move from the present because he thinks he knows what I'm going to say, even though I don't. I discover that as I'm talking. He wants me to fast forward me, fix me.
No, he wants to fast forward me, it says.
He wants to fast forward me. He wants to fix me or the problem and the conversation into the future. Here are some of our rules for listening. Now, it's very important that he doesn't have a cell phone on.
Don't.
And for some of you who have Apple Watches, you got to remove them too. A, set a time to listen to each other. Every 9 minutes and 59 seconds, the brain needs a break. Now, we get this from our good friend, Dr. John Medina, who wrote the New York Times best-selling book, Brain Rules. Your brain needs a break after 10 minutes.
Use the fast forward button, the rewind button, or the pause button only when necessary.
Look into each other's eyes, not at a plane, he's a pilot, remember, that appears overhead, or a plate of food going by, or anything below the neck of a woman.
We used to teach our boys, neck up.
Yep.
Be ready with a bag full of various oohs and ahs and a hug or two to feel and respond to the moment. Those are my words spoken, but Alice wrote them for me, just so you understand. Because I do not ooh and ah.
He doesn't.
And I need to learn, but I'm in year 46, I'm starting to get it.
And give grace when you're doing that. Give it a 20-year look, whatever you're talking about. If it doesn't really matter in 20 years, ask yourself.
And then use and heed the signal, which is?
Who knows what that means? He'll do this to me.
Huh? Bring it in for a landing.
Land the plane.
Land the plane, honey. We say that to each other. We have 2 minutes left, so what do you want to do?
Oh, keep going quickly.
Now, if you think that listening is hard for us to be present, then the other topic that I'm going to talk about now is even harder, and that is rest. I loved what Nilu said about Sundays and soup. And a big part of my message is that we need rest in a way that I don't think we get it. In our restaurant, it's built in because the restaurant's closed on Sundays, but that does not necessarily mean that people will rest. And though I'm not here to promote Judaism, and I'm not Jewish, I do want to put in a plug for 1 day a week when we all refrain from work. Now, I know
Everything's closed.
I know the issues of our business. It's a 24/7 world, but we're not designed to be 24/7 people. This Sabbath rest concept goes back to the 10 Commandments. We tried to buy a printer to print out this thing on Saturday in the Fashion District where the hotel is. All the stores that had this were closed on Saturday because of the Jewish Sabbath.
Yeah.
That actually was really helpful to us to take that day and not have to do that. Okay, so how would you like to finish this?
Right here, I guess.
Okay.
Like most of you in this room, presence is the others. This is where I'm going to, I'd like to read this to you, okay? This is something I wrote. What presence is, I think. Like most of you in the room, being in the presence of others is our calling and our gifting. It seems to me that presence is at the heart of hospitality, The true art of hospitality is exchanging our life for the other, for the good of the other, the focus of the other, being other-centered, for the need of the other is most prominent. We invite our guests to step from the sometime nonsense of this world into our world. And that's what we did at Canlis. We valued them, we served them, we loved them for a little while. The importance of real presence of our collective and actions and mindset for a little while can actually change the world. The tangible becomes the intangibles as they experience it. But we have to be present to be present. Hospitality is that movement from being an outside stranger into an inside guest. We desire our restaurant and our lives to be like the salt of the earth, a light on a hill, literally. Enough light to light the way and enough salt for them to thirst for more. We and our staff for 65 years are still welcoming, engaging, and embracing and continuing in this movement of hospitality, being generous with our lives, giving the gift of each other to the other. It's what God did for us in welcoming us as strangers into this world.
Let's do this a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes in our years and in your years, you don't like where you are. Because not everything always goes right. But we're always evolving and being transformed. Many of you can speak to that even more personally than we. 20 years ago, Alice and I found ourselves in trouble in our restaurant. The economy was in trouble, we were in trouble, and our board of directors decided that what was needed at Canlis was something that I couldn't give. I, the Stanford MBA. I, the guy who had run the company. And they decided that what was needed was something that Alice could give. I'm just going to tell this and we'll finish with it. So Alice was hired by the board of directors to be the president of Canlis Restaurant. Alice, who spent her life being a mom, who had no education to speak of, came in and in a matter of 2 years, transformed our restaurant from a restaurant that was doing $3 million in sales on the decline to one that was doing $6 million in sales with a lot of profit.
I was so proud to be president. I called everyone and announced it, anybody I knew. It was a very highly impressive position. I liked where I was at. I had found another calling. I was now a restaurateur. And several months later, though, I was wondering, I was glowing in my position, but I was wondering, well, what about Chris? What about his self-image? You know, he's no longer president. Well, what does that really make you? I asked him. And in his words, he told me, well, you're the president. Then he gently informed me that he was the CEO.
And she wanted to know what the CEO did.
And he told me, I hire and fire the president. Thankfully, we are all people of transformation, no matter what our circumstances can be. Now our boys are running the restaurant, and this is truly a legacy. Oh,
it's okay. No, we need to land the plane.
All right. Well, you can go ahead then, because you're saying it then.
Well, it's okay.
Land the plane?
It's okay. I'm going to share this.
All right.
And we'll finish with that. Okay? Did you hear me?
We'll send you the Cliff Notes.
Yesterday, we asked the boys in an email as they were flying in. Mark was stuck in the airport in Seattle. And we said, hey, send us a list of things that actually you got from us, that who you are is because of who we are. And you heard Mark mention, most of the hospitality, the genuineness, the passion, all of that comes from the heart girl. the Pensacola girl and her dad.
But not the number.
The other part, the numbers and all of that stuff, is me.
Spelling.
If we can work together. So, what they said, this is our edited version of their list. We didn't, just because to make it shorter. So, these are the things that they listed. Be thankful. The value and worth of striving to be other-centered. This was not prompted, I just want to remind you. You have to think about what you think about. Never stop learning, whether old or on vacation. I don't know if they think that's where we spend our lives, but never stop learning. Fiscal conservatism and generosity. Play games, enjoy what you eat, make lifelong friends. The value of cleaning your own house and mowing your own lawn, even if you can afford to do otherwise. Kids should obey their parents or suffer the consequences. And the end goal is just to make it back home with the people you love. Everything else is sort of the means to that end. We're done.
Oh, no. We have to show them. Remember, the question, wait a minute. The question we have to ask ourselves is, where are we? Look. Uh-oh, now's the time.